Hey folks, this is Robert Berry, and you are listening to Sonic Perspectives.
This is Ron Matthews with Sonic Perspective, hanging here with my friend Geno Salvati, and today I am honored to be chatting with prolific singer-songwriter and producer, Mr. Robert Berry. Woo!
Whoa, listen to the crowd. The crowd goes crazy.
Oh, it's incredible. Sold-out show.
You squeezed them in with a shoehorn.
Oh, man. Hey, listen, you know, everyone's talking about this, so I'm really excited. I want to delve right into this. The release of 3.2, the rules have changed, and man, does this have a story behind it.
Oh, man, and you know more than most, so...
It's incredible.
Where do we start? Yeah,
you know,
where do we start?
Well, there's been a bunch of interviews done lately. You've been on this whirlwind blitz, so I'm obviously I'm picking up and reading a ton of this. So I guess some of my questions are kind of the same as the others, but still maybe a little bit more personal and different.
Yeah.
The whole thing, well, first of all, why don't you talk about 3.2 and how this came to be?
Well, you know, Ron, you know, like I say, more than anybody, back in 87, when I got together with Keith and Carl, that was an amazing time for me because I did not, I had my band Hush, a local band. We had a little record contract, played St. Louis, where you were, but it didn't get any bigger than that. And then at my studio, where you've recorded a song, so that's why you know more than most, I'm going to have to be careful because you're going to bust me, and anything I say that's wrong, I know it. You got all the facts. But Carl Palmer called me right there at that studio, like out of the blue. It was a joke. I've said that before. I thought it was my friend Richard Katz, who did the cover for Pilgrimage to a Point, artist, friend of mine and drummer. And I said, yeah, who is this? Well, it's Carl Palmer. He's got a very high voice, you know. It's Carl Palmer. Robert Berry. So that's me. Yeah, that's me. I'm here. Yeah, I'm thinking it's a joke. And obviously it wasn't a joke. Carl and I tried to start a band for most of 86, a little bit of 87. Didn't work out, so I joined Steve Howe and GTR. That was an incredible experience, but it wasn't right for me. Keith Emerson called me the day before I was heading home and said, actually Brian Lane called for Keith, our manager, and said, Keith Emerson wants to have lunch with you. And I was like, for the first time, I was kind of scared. I mean, I was worried and nervous. This guy's got some kind of weird genius, you know. He won't be able to complete a sentence is what I thought. He was speaking in some kind of different language, you know, like Star Trek fans, they speak Klingon, right? I don't want to speak Klingon. How am I going to do this? So we meet, and we had the most incredible 2-hour lunch. He was funny. He was easy to speak with. He was accessible. We talked music. We talked, you know, what might happen. And it was just about a done deal. We got on so well. And at the last question, he said, look, before I leave, I have to ask you one thing. If we start a new band, will you mind playing some ELP songs? I said, oh, Keith, come on. I mean, you couldn't leave your legacy behind, and I'd be honored. Of course, I'm thinking I'm going to sing Lucky Man, right? It's going to be really easy. No problem. The easy one. That wasn't the case. Yeah, no, when you played Keith Emerson, Carl Palmer, nothing's going to be the easy ones. That was the Greg Lake stuff.
Well, since you bring that up, what was, you met Greg Lake, correct?
I got to tell you, I only met Greg Lake once 10 years ago, and he was just so nice to me. Nothing but good things to say. I really enjoyed meeting him, but Carl and Keith at the time that I joined them were super mad at Greg. They're supposed to do a new album, and Greg had no songs. And I don't really talk about this, but this isn't my place to talk about, but to you, the family, you know. And if it wasn't for Greg not having any songs for this effort they're doing, I probably never would have hooked up with Keith and Carl. So I'm thankful for Greg Lake, besides the wonderful music and his great voice and everything that he did, you know. That's what really got me the gig. But for years, you know, even after ELP did a couple of oldie reunion tours and stuff, I'd go, and they'd always invite me, and I'd say, Keith, I want to meet Greg. And Carl, you don't want to meet him, because Greg would actually leave right off the stage, go into the tour bus, or go wherever, not talk to anybody. He didn't seem accessible to me. Steve Howe is one of my idols. I mean, when it comes to guitar players, like as in Keith Emerson, there's a couple guys that are one of a kind that nobody plays like. No one would ever fit into the band the way that they do. And Steve is one of those guys, and my band Hush started as kind of a Yes Genesis ELP cover band. But I wasn't worried about meeting Steve and working with him. I had planned on doing something with Carl when I was over in England for the first time. And this Steve Howe thing was just sort of a possibility. So I met Steve at his house. And I just really liked the guy. First time I had met him. And he gave me a cassette tape with some songs on it. He goes, we need to replace Steve Hackett. And I've listened to your songs, and God, I really think you'd be a good fit. And Brian thinks the world, Brian Lane, thinks the world of you. And I said, well, let me take these songs home and see what I can do. And here's the strange thing. That was at a time in my life when I knew there was something out there for me, but I didn't know what it was. And are you still hearing me okay?
Oh, yes, clearly.
Okay. I didn't know what it was, but I had decided, it's sort of a realization, an epiphany, whatever, that if I did things the way I did them and people liked them, it would either be successful, I'd have a friend forever, it would move forward. But if I faked it, if I tried to do what they did or what they wanted done, it wouldn't be me, and I wouldn't be a valuable part of something. So I took Steve Howe's songs back to my flat in downtown London, Kensington High Street. Jeff Downs had loaned me a keyboard. I had a little 4-track recorder. I had brought a few guitars over and things, to hopefully work with Carl on something. And I took those songs and I turned them inside out, backwards, upside down. I took a song called "The Love We Share," and a song that he had titled "You're to Blame," I think, or "You Only Have Yourself to Blame." And I looked at that, I thought, no, that's not where we're at here. I only have myself to blame. I can make a difference in the world. So I started to rewrite this song. I put all these harmonies in, made up new chords, guitar parts, everything. And same thing with "Love We Share." Went back, I was up all night, 4:35 in the morning. I was so focused to make this what I thought GTR and what I thought I could bring to the table. And it wasn't an ego thing. It's just I wanted to give him the best of me. If he liked that, we might do something together, which thrilled me to death. And if he didn't, I shouldn't be there anyway. It wasn't the right fit. Get back to Steve's house. I think it was 12 o'clock the next day. I was kind of tired on 3 hours sleep. And we went up to his guitar room where he had a little recorder. And he goes, "So you got something to show me?" I said, yeah, let me put this down. I said, "I can't play and sing this at the same time. It's way too hard. I was working on it all night." So I think he had an 8-track TIAC reel-to-reel recorder. I put the guitar part down real rough. I'm playing guitar in front of Steve Howe. Now, Ron, I don't know about you, but that made me nervous. I put the guitar part down. I put the vocal part down, and he looked at me. He goes, "Okay, you have another one." I said, "Yeah. I changed this from you're to blame to you only have yourself to blame. No one else to blame but yourself." He's like, "No one else to blame." Okay, I'll put it down, sang it. He put his hand on his chin and sort of sat there for a minute. And he looked at the lyric sheet I had, and he looked at me. He goes, "No one has done this kind of work on my songs before since John Anderson."
Jeez.
Way back starting to write about. And I went, "Well, I think that's a good thing."
That's incredible. That's like saying no one has walked on water like that since ...
Since Jesus. Well, it was felt like that to me. It was amazing. And Steve and I bonded right away because, again, I gave him me, what I would do, the honest me, the real me, what I would bring to the table. And, of course, that was filled with tons of respect and tons of yes knowledge that I had because I loved yes, And I brought a lot of that to the table. So we did very well. Wrote a bunch of songs, brought a bunch of my own in, and Steve did his thing to them. In fact, I have a version of Talkin Bout, which nobody's heard. I will send to you, though, as my brother-in-law, as my cherished family member. You have got to hear what he did to Talkin Bout. It's amazing. As good in a guitar way as Keith was in a keyboard way, although the keyboard way of the song was really the way it should be done. Anyway, that's my GTR story. It was amazing. The singer didn't like me, and I felt, again, I need to be real and honest to myself. I stayed long enough to get them their album contract funded to go and do the masters. And I said, you know what, I'm heading home. This isn't working for me as much as I like working with Steve. I can't be harassed in a mild kind of way when I look back at it. But at the time, being a stranger in a strange land, and no friends there except for these famous guys I was meeting and working with, and no home base kind of. I loved living there, but I couldn't just walk down the street to my favorite place to eat because I didn't know what that was. I'd only been there a year, so I was heading home.
I was in England the same time you were.
Yeah, you were
sitting in Upper Hayford, right down by Banbury, just a few miles from Oxford.
Wow, isn't that something?
We were close.
Yeah. Do you remember Rosie? Oh, no, I forget. We'll talk about that later.
Oh, shh. No, actually I don't. No, for the record.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to tell one thing real quick, which I always just thought was fantastic. When we first got to know each other, and you were telling me about playing in this band with Carl Palmer, and I remember looking at you and saying, wow, you played with the drummer from Atomic Rooster?
Yes. That's the one thing about you. You are a walking encyclopedia of music. I don't know how you remember everything and know everything and know so many people. It's amazing, and I couldn't believe that you knew that when you said that to me.
What's funny is I can't remember a phone number 2 seconds after it's told to me, but I can tell you who drew everything for Yes. And it's nuts how the brain retains. Okay.
Well, that's the beauty of us guys. We get away with that. It's selective memory. The things we really like and enjoy, we can remember every aspect of it. Where are the keys or what we have to do tomorrow, not so much.
Well, I know I'm family, but this comes from the heart. I heard 2 songs up until just about a week ago because my brother-in-law won't send me a free copy of the CD. I have to go order it, and it's being released here in just a week or so. One. If I lived in Japan, I would have a copy right now.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that? Same for me. I swear to God, I do not have a copy. I don't have one. And I've been very, very, very careful because Frontiers is want to make sure there's no piracy, and it's already starting the piracy, and we're trying to shut down where we can, which I hear is a very naive viewpoint on the way music is released and traded today. Yep. But I'm going to do my best to not have it.
Hey, I bought the album because I want the chart ratings for you. I think this album deserves it. It's incredible. But I had heard the song Somebody's Watching, which was the first release. Mm-hmm. Just no video to it, but then, of course, you came up with Powerful Man next. So, first of all, I want to say this. Somebody's Watching. Robert, that's slick. I mean, it's good. It's got every bit of prog feel that you could want. And I love the guitar work in it. It takes me right back to an old Kansas song, is what it does.
That's cool.
It's just, you've got so much in that one song, and it all plays together so perfectly.
And, it was Frontiers who chose that as the first song to release. I probably wouldn't have chosen that one, but once it was out, I go, oh, yeah. I spent a year recording this one. It was after spending, 9 months of never going to visit it again. I was so sad about losing Keith. I'd spent a year working on it and whittling away until it is what it is. And I didn't have any perspective on good, bad, right, or anything. I just know that what I like to do, I love the band Asia. I love the perfect blend of guitars and keyboards. I love Yes with the quality and then the grandness of it. I love the ELP for the fire and the energy and a lot of the things. And, of course, the melodic vocals in the ELP, Great Lakes vocals. I love all that, and that's all a part of who I am, kind of, besides of whatever I really am. That sort of my coming together with all these influences. And when they put that out and I finally heard it on, away from my normal habitat, I went, yeah, that represents kind of all the album, everything it's about. Now, I will say, I've seen some of the reviews or the interviews, and without reading the booklet, which is 20 pages, it's full of stuff, some of the people that heard the tracks don't get things like Our Bond, which I wrote a couple weeks after Keith died. And there's a couple other things they don't get that have a few heavy riffs in it, like the title track, The Rules Have Changed. I can't even think what the title track, The Rules Have Changed, and why I wrote it and who was more of an influence on that. So once they see the booklet, they're going to go, oh, I see why that does what it does. But somebody's watching, of course, has a lot to do with how I finished that album, because I kept saying to myself, and you've seen this, I'm not trying to regurgitate old stuff, but I kept saying to myself, what would Keith do here? And if Keith did that, what would I do? How would we, go back and forth? I tried to play both parts kind of in the discussion of how to move this recording and this writing forward. And honestly, you've known me a long time. I'm sort of a black and white guy. I believe if I work hard, I can make something happen. I'm not this, dreamy kind of new age. Oh my God, look at there's a message in the clouds. I'm not that kind of guy. But Keith Emerson flowed through my fingers when I said, what would Keith do here? In a way I can't explain, because a lot of the stuff that's on there that I had to play isn't like I would normally play. And I'm talking about being honest to who I am and what I do, but this just came through me. It was really weird. So Somebody's Watching was the perfect song to start the release on.
Wow, that is an amazing story. This is Geno Salvati, and I would like to ask, can you tell us a little bit more about how 3.2 as a concept was going to come back together? And thanks for relating those stories about the very beginning of 3.2 with Carl Palmer, but maybe bring us up to speed on what happened in the middle there to get us to 3.2 where it is now.
Yeah, definitely, because that was really interesting, the most interesting thing, because Keith was never going to visit 3 again. He had so much criticism. You have to remember that Carl Palmer had played in Asia before 3 got together, and Asia played songs. They were on the hit radio. It seemed like all the ELP fans could accept Carl Palmer playing on songs with Asia, but the ELP fanatics couldn't accept Keith Emerson playing on songs like Talkin Bout, which got a little bit Asia-like. It got to be in the top 10. It was number 9 hit. They couldn't accept that from Keith. And one of the things they really couldn't accept was that we had 2 female background singers. They hated that. The girls dressed in cool stage clothes and stuff, but they called them the scantily clad background singers. They hated that. They thought that was a sellout for Keith. I'm thinking, this is the way I explain the progressive rock audience, although a lot of them have hair. But I like to say bald head and glasses as far as you can see. Like the Star Trek fans, they're guys, Yeah. But a lot of them had hair, and they still have hair. Don't get me wrong. I don't want any people feeling criticized by that. There's a lot of guys in the prog rock thing. You'd think they would have liked the 2 girls on stage. We got rid of one of them. There was one girl on stage, Jennifer. They didn't like that, but it was part of the sound. So Keith left it behind. He didn't want nothing to do with that. He thought it was the wrong move for him. But 27 years later, a record company put out 3 live in Boston. It was a live radio broadcast.
Yes, fantastic recording.
One of our great shows, and of course Boston's been good to me always. Keith called me the day he got it in the mail. He was at home at night like he liked to do. He had a glass of white wine. He listened to music. And he thought, I'll put this on, make sure, nothing embarrassing on it. And we had worked together a bunch on different things over the 27 years, but 3 was never discussed because I knew he did not want to revisit it. That night he called me, super excited. He said, Robert, it's Keith. I said, yeah, Keith, what's up? He goes, I just listened to the album. But yeah, live. 3, Boston. He goes, it's fantastic. He goes, we were a really good band. And my jaw dropped. And my dream for 27 years was to do a second 3 album. I tried back in 88, 89 actually to make that happen. Didn't happen. And here was my opportunity. And I said this one time. I said, when you're dating a girl and the door cracks open, you're supposed to get your foot in there so she can't slam the door on you. I said, there it was. The crack was small. I stuck my foot in that crack so it wouldn't close. And I said, what would you think about doing a follow-up? Very calmly. And Keith very calmly said, maybe. And so I went, there it was, right? I called Serafino in Italy with Frontiers Records, who had always wanted me to do a free follow-up record. I said, I have an opportunity. He goes, go for it. Please, let's do it. Called Keith back. I said, they're ready. He goes, well, what would we do? We talked about it a bunch, and we came up with the kind of money that Frontiers had offered. We came up with our parameters of complete artistic control and a year to do it, and blah, 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 all these things that we wanted. Called Serafino back and said, Keith and I have discussed it. If we can do this, he's ready to go.
Wow.
Serafino said, let's do it. I'm ready. I'll send you the contracts. I don't do record contracts that way anymore until I have a couple songs written. I say, I don't want to sign a contract and feel this burden of, I got to deliver. So I said, okay, Keith and I are going to do a couple songs, get them together. We'll send it to you. You can get the contract ready, but we're not going to sign until we really have this going. Called Keith back. He was actually very excited about it. He said, who has that kind of money these days? I said, hey, you're Keith Emerson. What do you mean? I said, they want you. They want this album. They've wanted it for a long time. He goes, that's fantastic. He goes, you should be my manager. Jokingly, And I thought, well, that's kind of sad because I'm not a manager. But this was happening, and he was excited about it. So we started working, and we had one song left over from 1988 on a cassette tape we had talked about, and we were going to use that. It's a song I actually didn't like back then, or I did not like it. I just thought it wasn't right. And now I just thought, oh, this is so perfect. A couple of updates and stuff, and the right lyrics, and it would be really great. It was mostly Keith's music. I just didn't have any words or any ideas for it back in '88. We worked on talking about that. We had a bunch of pieces, digital files that he had sent me of all this great Emerson playing and things I could take parts from. And what was really cool, and I've spoken about this a lot, and I'm not sure it's coming across quite as exciting as it was for me. Ron's been to my studio. He knows there's a board right in front of the big monitor where it's a digital keyboard that hooks to Pro Tools. And I play it if somebody needs to sing a note, they're singing a tune. I go, hey, sing this G. I go, bing, bing, bing. So it's right there. Keith has a digital piano at his house, and we would talk on the phone about ideas, and he'd play things, amazing things, of course, like really fast. Okay, I'd go on my piano and have to record these ideas to write songs off of. Like really correct me and tell me and this and that. And we whittled away at these ideas until I got it a little more up to speed and recorded on the Pro Tools so I could use it to write the songs. That, to me, was like an incredible friendship we always had, but that would really get that across, how I felt doing that and how it inspired me. So when we hung up, usually, 7 o'clock, I would just keep going and working these things. Kind of so much joy, I guess, really. My dream was coming together such a big way at the time. And then, of course, 3 months later, that part of the dream was over.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I answered the question. I can ramble on.
No, that's good, though. You did answer the question, and it brings up the next question. I know you were just in England, that you and Rebecca were out there, and you got to have you sat down and had dinner with Keith's family. And tell me about the reaction that they gave you.
That was such a special time for us. They were so welcoming and excited. And we planned to go to dinner, but also for me, I really needed to visit Keith's gravesite. And I had all these plans. I was going to live FaceTime, All right, let's do a live Facebook post. Aaron Emerson and I, his son, and here we are. This is the Keith's final resting place. I'm so honored to be. I thought, I'm going to just give this thing and show people the surrounding area. Here's where Keith Emerson lies, and look at how beautiful it is here. And I got there with the family, his 2 grandsons, my beautiful wife, a wonderful, beautiful wife, Jo, and I got so sad I couldn't do anything because I realized that for me, the year I had worked on the album after I had decided to get back into it, and the amount of conversations with Aaron and different things I had done to keep this alive and keep it building and finish it up, had made me feel like Keith was still with me. I mean, he was with me when I was recording in some really strange way. And right there and then, it was so final. I know it kind of sounds cliche, but there it was, the gravesite with his mom and dad, and I took a picture and just had nothing to say. I just couldn't do this. Here's this final resting place. It really affected me. I was glad I did it the last night, the week we had in London, because I was doing interviews all week on this press tour. And for the first time, I was getting all this incredible response from journalists who had criticized me. And 30 years before, they were saying, we can feel Keith in the music. Thank you for doing this. We thought this sound was lost. We thought anything new from him was lost. They keep regurgitating all these old ELP remixes and box sets and all this, and we can feel him in the music. And I'm like, wow, that was so empowering and inspiring to me. I thought, they're feeling what I felt, and it came through after it passed through me to record it, And then there I am, the carpet pulled out from under me because it was just final. That's all I can say.
No,
it was a wonderful time with Aaron and Joe. Ron, I got to tell you something that really touched me. Keith's grandson, Ethan, is a piano player, and he's really good. And I've seen things posted about him, but I'd never met him. And the last thing Keith said to me, our last conversation about a week before he died, was, I have to go to Japan and do these shows. It's going to be really tough. It's 5 in a row. And he goes, his hand hurt, his arm hurt. He wasn't thrilled about it, but he says, the Japanese are my biggest fans. I'm going to go there and do this. But I won't be back till, I don't know if it was April or May. It might have been May, because I just want to go see my grandkids. That's the most important thing to me right now. I said, okay, fantastic, Well, I met his grandkids. He never got to make that trip to see his grandkids. He never did the Japanese shows. He was gone before all that. And Ethan brought up to me 2 of those backstage pass laminates that Rolf had made to hand out to people. The incredible thing that Rolf did, that was so cool for him to do that. Ethan had 2 of them he wanted me to sign. And he wanted to sit down and he wanted to ask me about his grandfather. And, of course, they spent a lot of time together, but we were in a band together. And we talked a little bit about inspiration and how good he was.
That's amazing.
It was very touching,
I had
really touching.
Rebecca and I had a fantastic guitarist for a father, and so anytime I've been able to talk to people about bands he was in, I stop and drop everything to listen to stories. There's still people around that jammed with him.
Yeah, and that is exactly the feeling. That's why I knew that you would feel what I felt. There's something about. I can't even explain.
No, it's deep and it's real. Yeah, that's wild. That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hey, Robert, listen, 3.2, the rules have changed. It's been released in Japan and comes out, am I correct, August 5th?
August 10th.
10th. I'm sorry,
yeah.
August 10th. I have to wait 5 more days. But see, I'm excited, dude. I want my physical copy in my hand. I have now heard the whole album, and it's incredible. I'm so proud of you, Robert. It's just a fantastic album.
Well, I appreciate that, Ron. I'm feeling, still, how do I explain it? Before it came out, I had a lot of doubt, a lot of self-doubt, and I sent it to Serafino Frontiers Records. And he said, it's perfect. Oh, okay, well, he wanted it. He's a record company, he's biased. I sent it a couple tracks to Rolf, what nobody knew about, because I wasn't supposed to do that, but, Rolf started the 3 Facebook page. He's really embedded in this 3 thing and this sound, and he's a damn good musician, that guy, and a school teacher. He in circles encompasses all the things that I hold dear to me.
A quick shout out to Ralph. I love that guy.
Oh, he's incredible, and he gave me the approval of, hey man, this is really good. You're doing the right thing. I still, I thought, well, okay, I talked to 2 biased people. There's actually a girl in Scotland who was a friend of Keith's, who is a great musician, puts out her own. I'm not going to name her because I don't want anybody bugging her, but I thought, you know what? If I could have her check this. And she says yes, because she would be the first one to say, no, this isn't. And she heard the whole thing, sworn to secrecy. And she said, I don't understand how you did this. I feel Keith, and in the solos, how do you do solos like him? And so I just did the solos. They just came out, And she said some things that meant a lot to me in a different way than just liking the music and the lyrics and the sound. She had a different inside kind of thing. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to let Serafino put this out, and I'm going to go for it. And I set myself up saying, okay, I'm going to get a lot of criticism. I know what's coming. I got it the first time around 30 years ago, but that's okay. This has to be done. I spent a lot of time working on this, a year, and I did it the way that Keith and I had spoke about doing it. I never varied. And for the first time, Ron, I got to tell you, it's odd. And we're still on, right? You're not losing me?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. For the first time, well, let me put it this way. For 30 years, I always said, I was in a band with Keith Emerson and Carl Palmer, 3. They did this, they did that, all that stuff. Now, I wrote more than half the songs. I was a singer. I played bass and guitar, and even on stage, even on the record a little bit, I played some keyboards, which nobody had ever played keyboards in a band on stage with Keith Emerson. You just don't have to. He does it all. For the first time, I took ownership in my piece of 3, and I said, I'm the only one that wanted to really continue this now that Keith's gone. Carl's doing ELP Legacy. That's his thing. He is the only surviving member of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. He needs to do that. I know 3. I know the sound. I know the writing, because I wrote a lot of it. I know what Keith and I planned to do. I know what Keith said he wanted to, writing-wise, and the little pieces of having this and that. I'm the only guy that knows. I'm going to take ownership in this. This is not just my album. This is what 3 would have developed into. And it was empowering in its own way to me to sort of take that ownership, because I had just felt like, a third of a band for 30 years, and maybe not even a third, maybe a quarter, even though there were only 3 of us. And it really felt good to take that ownership and say, okay, I'm ready for the criticism. And if people hate it, this is me being honestly what I think we should have been, what we are now, what we would have developed, the whole thing. I feel really positive about it, even if people don't like it. Like I say, there's been a few misinterpretations on some songs because they don't know why they were done a certain way, like Our Bond, which I wrote a couple weeks after Keith died. It has quotes from 5 different songs. There's a little piece of Talkin Bout in there, a little piece of Hoedown. There's Desi La Vida. There's little things in there. There were quotes for a very special reason, because that was a song that I was honoring Keith and all us fans that loved Keith. That Our Bond was a song that I called us the Emerson Army, that went out to everybody that loved him. And there's reasons that are in there the way they are. It's maybe a little disjointed, but it needed to be. It passes through different phases of his career and our career together. And anyway, there you go.
Yes, sir. This is Geno Salvati again. I wanted to ask you,
hey, Geno,
on the subject of 3.2 again, the .2 part, did that have a particular symbolism? Was that like going from 3 band members to 2, or was it like the second edition, or how would you describe how you came to that name?
You hit it right on. 3.2 was like, as in software language, 3 version 2, the second updated version of 3, and also because 2 of us were going to do it. Really, when we got done, and I've spoken about this just a little bit, because Simon Phillips was never talked to, but Keith and I both wanted Simon Phillips to do the drums once we had the keyboards and the vocal stuff done. Simon had worked on an ELP tribute album for me that way, and when he played after the fact, it was so freeing to him, and what he did was so amazing that I wanted to do this the same way. And Keith and Simon were friends, so we said, okay, once we get our part done, we're going to turn it over to him. but it was still the two of us really doing the album. So yeah, you hit it right on the head.
Well, brother-in-law, I know we're going to be running out of time here. One thing I want to say real quick before we go, I loved how you made the comment about what would Keith do. You know, there's other people all over the place saying, what would Robert do now? And I have personal friends, and you know this, that have been inspired by you. You bring in numerous young acts into your studio at Soundtech. You do a lot for people, Robert, and you should be applauded.
Well, Ron, I appreciate that. I am really lucky. I do what I love. I have to work all the time to be able to do that because it's hard to make a living in music these days. The internet has really ruined a musician's career with all the streaming and stuff. Hopefully someone will fix that, but it's going to be a tough fix. But I love working with people that aren't famous just as much as people that are famous. In fact, sometimes I like it more because I have such a path with Sammy Hagar and Gary Peel from Boston and Ambrosia, all these things I've been able to do besides Keith and Carl, Steve Howe, that I can bring these to, a 16-year-old girl's hip-hop song, or like right now I have a 25-year-old guy, Harrison, that's doing rock stuff. I can bring all that to them and give them something that they wouldn't get if they just went to a studio on their own. And I do love that. The next thing for me, hopefully, and I didn't plan on this.
This is my future album?
I have a guy. Yeah.
Okay. Album. I'm sorry. It was somebody else. Sorry. Go ahead.
And I only charge you double. So
you do. You are so expensive, Robert. Jeez.
No, my dream right now, what I'm dreaming now, which is one of the songs on the album, is possible world tour next year. But I have a guy that says you're going to go from Argentina to Russia and everything in between, which I know St. Louis is somewhere in there.
Far out.
So,
I am hoping to see you in St. Louis. I know you can't really announce anything right now on any of the tour stuff because it's still in play. But whoever does play this keyboard this could make and break a career of somebody. This is huge stuff.
I got to tell you, for me to find a guy who's crazy enough to take it on, people had always said, "Oh, get Jeff Downs, get this guy, that guy, Rick Wakeman, even his son." This tour has to represent my body of work in progressive music. It's not going to be a Yes thing or a Patrick Moraz thing or something. It needs to represent really a lot of Keith Emerson, the hardest stuff to really play. And the guy's going to have to be a nut. He's going to have to be crazy to take on this job and so dedicated. And
I'll check my phone contacts. We'll find someone for you.
There you go. Well, he's going to have to work as hard as I did. It was very hard for me to play some of the keyboard stuff that I had to do. He's going to have to work that hard and then put it out every night on stage. It's going to take some kind of player, I'll tell you that.
Well, it's going to be an incredible show. You got a really good body of work. The stuff from Pilgrimage to a Point, which everybody knows the story of that. A lot of those songs were previous 3 songs that came out on that.
And GTR songs.
And GTR songs too as well.
Yeah.
And you've done some tribute stuff. I still think there was a New World Man album, and you actually did the title track.
Rush.
Yeah, you did the New World Man on the tribute, and that was incredible. Just some amazing work that's out there, Robert, that you've done that everybody should take a quick listen to. Actually, a long-term listen
Ron,
to.
I know that you're going to be a man on the merch table because we're going to sell a lot more merch when you're out there.
I've got 4 arms and I'm ready to go. Sign me up. All right, hey, listen, I tell you what, as we wrap this up, we're going to take this out with Powerful Man. Do you want to just talk about that real quick and maybe take us out to your song?
Yeah. Now, am I clear on your end? Because you're breaking up on my end.
No, you're clear
here.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let me tell you. I'm going to say this again more than anybody. My history with Steve Howe, whose son Dylan's a drummer. Sammy Hagar, whose son Aaron is a fantastic singer. You saw the Only Alliance show, 2 shows that Aaron sang with us. He's amazing, right?
Yes, Aaron
just like
was
his
fantastic.
Dad.
He was amazing.
Greg's Kihn's son Ryan,
which is an amazing
incredible guitar player. Took lessons from Joe Satriani. Yeah. I mean, all these guys I've worked with, their sons followed in their footsteps. They had, like in the bassinet beneath the stage during sound check. As they grew up, they were side stage. I mean, can you imagine Aaron Emerson sitting side stage. He came on the 3 tour bus. He saw his dad up there playing. He was inspired by that. So all these kids were inspired by powerful dads who were really loving, kind of gentle dads, but from afar because they were on tour so much. So this song is kind of about that, and it was really finished up and inspired to do by Aaron Emerson about his dad, Keith.
This is Ron Matthews.
And Geno Salvati.
Thank you for checking out 3.2, The Rules Have Changed, featuring Robert Berry doing the last works of Keith Emerson. This is being released on August 10th on Frontier Records. And please come back and check us out on Sonic Perspectives at www.sonicperspectives.com. And don't forget to check out the Facebook page, too. I love it. Hopefully this won't be the last time you hear from us, guys. We'll be checking up with you soon, and I hope you enjoyed this historical interview. Robert Berry, I love you, bro. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
I
Ron.
love you too, Ron. I hope to see you soon. Geno, I appreciate your time. I will see you guys soon.
Happy
Right
trails.
on.
Can't wait to see you.
Talk to you soon. And so you want to introduce the song?
Nah, I don't think so. No,
Cool.
Of course I do. This is Powerful Man off the new 3.2 album.
This world of struggles around me. Hold my head up high, down the path of my youth where it guides me. The flesh and blood unfolds, secrets of my life I hold. And when I needed answers I could find them deep inside. 'Cause I'm the soul, still got those innocent kids' eyes. I won't take it on the chin. I'm gonna win, gonna live life. I'm the sword that I was raised from a distance by the world's domains, by the gentle ways of a powerful man. Its twists and turns along the travel to journey's end. And time, it's a heavy load, the bumps and grinds.